A star is born. Many of us, parents and educators, recognize that the kids that are in our care may be someone who's a future star. They may be great at performing. They might have exceptional talent. How do we develop that talent to make sure that kids are pursuing their dreams and they're rising to their full potential?
Hi, thank you so much for joining the Falling for Learning podcast. We have this podcast to help parents and caregivers with having the resources, strategies, and tools needed to make sure that their children are on track for learning and to stay on track for success.
Our next guest, Albert Bramante, is a talent agent and performance coach who are going to give us some strategies and insights about how to help our kids on their journey to greatness.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
So, Albert, we always have our guests talk about the thing that made them fall in love with learning. What was that thing for you?
For me, it was just a natural proclivity toward reading and discovering new things. As a child, I was an avid reader. I still am, but I love to read. And for me, that was my comfort, my solace, my sanctuary was a library. And so I really enjoyed learning about new things. I was always a curious kid, asked a lot of questions, was sometimes even chastised for being nosy, but I think I'm just curious. I reframe that to
Yeah.
curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really helped me get through things, and even in my own life, is just learning, especially loving to read. I love books, and being an author myself, I've always loved books and I still do. So for me, I fell in love with learning, and I feel like, my goal in life is just to keep learning, and I'm a lifelong learner. And even being out of school for so many years, I feel like I'm always learning. And I think that's a mindset that all of us should be having.
Absolutely. So, could you tell us about what kind of activities you were in as a child? What's your education background that led you to your career?
Sure. Well, I was always involved. I mean, when I was in, elementary, middle school, I was a type of child because I'm the youngest of five, and my half siblings are much older than I am. And
Okay.
so I kind of essentially was the only child. So I didn't really have that many peers to grow up with, and so I was more the adult.
Mm.
I was hanging out with the adults table, and I was sitting
Yeah.
at the adults table. I had a hard time really adjusting to other children, but I spent, I would say, a good part of my junior high and high school being very involved. Different
Okay.
clubs, different organizations, including the school newspaper, the drama club, all these
Okay.
different service organizations. And even in college, my undergraduate studies, I was very much involved. So many different organizations. And for me, that was just so important. I think it
Yeah.
was just to be a part of different groups and communities. And so that's what really fueled me. I mean, was community, I would say, is a big aspect of my education. So
Okay. Amazing. Okay. So tell us about, the education that you had or the experience that led you to your career as a talent agent and performance coach.
sure. Well, I worked several different hats, and I when I was like 15, 16, I made this declaration that I was going to be a psychology major,
Okay.
because I was reading books in high school, such as How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. So I really became just curious about self-improvement and self-help.
Mm.
So I just really wanted to study psychology. For my undergraduate, my bachelor's degree, I took some classes in theater. At that time, I was not really intending to be anything in the arts. I was really intending to be a clinical psychologist and college professor. My mom was a first grade teacher for 31 years. My dad, was a football coach. My oldest brother was a football coach. So I think that between the coaching and teaching, education was in my blood, and full on and full through. Then I did my master's degree in psychology with a focus on concentration in marriage and family therapy.
Mm.
And again, still looking to be a clinical psychologist. I didn't get into a PhD program right away, so I had to work, and I had to kind of work, go into social services. Now, this is right after I received my master's degree. Unfortunately, it was the same year of 9/11, and so being that I'm I'm in New Jersey, it was very close to, New York City. And so
Okay.
some of my contacts who were part of the 9/11 were needed help to volunteer. So they recruited a number of us, myself included, a bunch of actors and filmmakers and directors, and it kind of brought my interest back from being in a drama club and being an acting class, how much I enjoyed it. So I was like, okay, let me try the thing as an actor. Now, for me, it wasn't so much being an actor, but I think what it boiled down to was the theater community and acting community. I really felt seen as a person, and I
Mm.
really felt like I belonged here, in this community.
Yeah.
So, right around this time, I also got hot, started fulfilling one part of my dream was I got hired to teach as an adjunct at the time in a community college in
Okay.
psychology. So I started doing that, and I really loved it. And but then, the thing about, well, what do I do as far as acting wise? I said, well, I'm not interested so much in being an actor myself, but I enjoy working with actors. I want to support actors as much as possible. So
Mm.
then I thought, well, why don't I represent them? And so 2004, I started my first company,
Okay.
from home and managing actors. And then this is right around the same time I decided I'm going to go back for my PhD. And in the middle of my PhD studies, I was kind of launching the talent business as well as still teaching part time. But the one thing that kept coming up was self-sabotage and blocks, fear of success, imposter syndrome. And so I decided I was going to do my doctoral dissertation on
Mhm.
self-defeating behavior in performing artists.
Right.
And so that was like the turning point where I was able to bring both of my worlds together, my love of acting, but also the psychology and the mindset work that come with
Right.
that. So that's how
Mm.
that started. And then, many years later, I decided to, write my, publish my book, Rise Above the Script, which deals with self-doubt and self-sabotage.
Okay.
And working with the thousands of actors as well as students, that was the one thing that came up a lot was self-sabotage and fear of success and other blocks, like really getting in your own way and how we can sometimes be our own worst enemy.
Yeah, can you give us like one example of self-sabotage?
Well, in my context, it would be like the actor, for example, who, does shows up late to appointments. The actor who doesn't prepare fully. The actor who just decides even to blow off an appointment or an audition. Just really things that are like kind of taking themselves out of the race or out of the
Okay.
opportunity too fast without, because it's a tough industry already to break into regardless. But
Right.
it's like now you're kind of like being your own worst enemy.
Right. So you don't even have an opportunity. They're not going to consider you because you didn't show up, you came really late, something
Hmm.
like that. Okay. And then what happened? Like, what are some things that happen in self doubt, or how does that happen? You explain more about that.
Sure. Well, what can happen there with with self-doubt, it's you start to get that inner critic that pops in there. That the I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I'm trained enough. Who am I? I'm just little old me. And then it just starts to say, you know what? I'm not going to really do this. I'm not going to pursue this, even though I really want to deep down inside. I'm just not going to do it. And
Okay.
therefore, it's just like we start shrinking inside, and then therefore we don't really let our light shine through in a sense.
Okay. And so when we, with our audience, really supporting kids as educators and caregivers, what are some things that we could do for kids as they're, sometimes they might be acting, right? They may have,
Hmm.
big roles that they're up for, but they may also have like smaller roles, speeches, different things like that. What are some things that we could do to help support them when some of this self doubt or even self sabotage is happening?
Well, really, the one thing you want to do is build like initiative, autonomy, and really confidence, and that's what you're doing with children. And it's really encouragement is very powerful. Encouragement and not being so concerned as a parent with the outcome. Like
Okay.
more of like enjoy like praising the process. So for
Love
example,
this.
instead of like, even if the child messes up or throws their
Yes.
practice is to keep reinforcing the idea that they're working hard for it. So you're praising rather than the outcome. So therefore
Wonderful.
you're teaching perseverance and the importance of grit and hard work and rather than again the outcome. Like it's not about winning, it's not about losing, it's not about whether you're going to get the role or not. It's about working hard. It's about putting, giving it your all and being okay with whatever the outcome is, not being attached to the outcome. And this is even for adult actors too, is to just do your best and not be so concerned with the outcome.
The Rewrite Method and the Rewrite Method Workbook are your go to resource for helping kids to learn to fall in love with writing. It has the tips, tools, resources, strategies, and skill building activities to help kids fall out of writing hate and into loving to write. Get your book set today. All right, I love that. Praising the process and really focusing on the effort
Hmm.
and detaching yourselves from the outcome. So, those are some great strategies, some gems that will be very helpful for our audience members.
Hmm.
What are some things to do when the self doubt is coming in? Because obviously you could help coach them, but what are some things that we could tell them to say or do to help them when they're like on stage and the self doubt is creeping up? In the moment.
Yeah, well, physiologically, take a deep breath in. Deep breathing is very powerful. Calm, deep breath in, and just even like simple phrases like "I got this," "I got
Yeah.
this." You say that to yourself, "I got this," and
Mm-hmm.
you move forward. And one of the things that we're really wired to pay attention to fear, and that's exactly our brain is designed to help us survive. So it's doing its job by sometimes creating this tension in our body because we're in unfamiliar territory, we're in
Yes.
unfamiliar ground, an unknown land. So again, it's going to seek that fear, but instead like saying I got this, and whether you're giving a speech, whether you're giving a performance, the idea here is to almost reframe that nerves that you're getting, that maybe that uneasiness, that queasiness in your stomach, is instead of saying like, well, this means I'm nervous. No, it means you're excited because if you look at the emotion of excitement and anxiety in the
Mm-hmm.
body physiologically, they're very similar states.
Interesting. Okay.
So instead of saying I'm fearful, I'm doing this, oh, I must be fearful. No, I'm doing this because I'm excited.
I love that idea, reframing that fear as excitement and really thinking about, things that you could do, such
Hmm.
as breathing, right? Which we hear a lot, but helping kids practice that in the moment, practice that. And then actually, when they're in the moment, they can apply it and actually use it. And it could be something to help them move forward.
Hmm.
That's really great. Great ideas that we need to think about and really implement with our students and our children as they are getting out of their comfort zone, because that is what
Hmm.
performing is, out of the comfort zone. It is unknown territory often, when even if you've done something before, but with the new performance is a new audience and it is a new territory, like you said. So
Hmm.
reframing those ideas and really able to move forward, because we want our kids to reach their full potential, but for them to think about fear in a more objective way and then reframe their fear as excitement. Really, really, I think those are very helpful strategies that you're sharing with us.
Absolutely.
So, can you tell us about your book and how it relates to your coaching and
Sure.
your
Sure.
work?
Well, I have a different lens. It's backed up by research and personal, stories and experience. So it's follows the foundation of my doctoral dissertation, the outline. I talk about self-esteem. My first part of the book is self-esteem, and I talk about the consequences, the extremes of self-esteem when it's too low. That's a problem. Sometimes being too high can be what I call toxic. High self-esteem, or like a little bit of pompousness, grandiosity, and all of
Yes.
that. And how that can lead to self-sabotage too, because then we're not open to criticism and that we're not really open to change.
Mm-hmm.
And then part two, I talk about a concept known as self-efficacy, which I feel is so important for children and education. And self-efficacy is really your belief and your confidence in a certain task or domain. And if you're performing in any type of way, you really have to have a high degree of self-efficacy in your acting ability, performing ability, speaking ability, your athletic ability, whatever it is you're performing as. So, and then there's another part when I talk about personality, particularly the five-factor model, which is openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, and how all those play into then. How this relates to self-sabotage is usually those that are high in neuroticism, which is really referred to how prone you are to anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and how easily you're phased. Like people that are high in neuroticism tend to be very easily upset or triggered or angered or
Okay.
whatever it is on an emotional extreme. And you couple that with low in conscientiousness, which is discipline and focus. And that's a perfect recipe for self sabotage.
I see.
And then the last part of the book, but the final part, is on fear of success. And a couple of different things there. Talk about relationships. Sometimes when you're successful, relations may change because your life is going to change. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's another chapter I talk about money, your relationship with money,
Okay.
and how that affects you. And it says that every part of the chapter, there's some helpful strategies in there. So while the book is really geared towards actors, for performing artists, there's a lot of stuff that's in there that really anybody can gain something from. Who deals with
Mm-hmm.
self-doubt and and sometimes that imposter syndrome. And and that's everybody pretty much, on really fundamentally.
Wow. Okay. So tell us the title of your book one more time.
Sure, it's Rise Above the Script, Confronting Self-Doubt and Mastering Self-Sabotage for Performing Artists.
Wonderful. Okay, and we are going to have a link to that in the show notes, right? Okay. All right. And if people want to reach out to you, where they're going to go?
Sure, you can go to my agency website, BramanteArtists.com, and feel free to reach out to me there, especially if you have any questions about acting or if you have questions about performance. I'd be happy to reach out to you there. You can also find me on socials. I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram, and you can feel free to send me a direct message, and I'd be happy to chat with you.
Great. So, getting back to your work, what are some things that you notice that people really get wrong? They do things that are really set them up for, it doesn't set them up for fail. I mean, it kind of sets them up for failure. Besides like self-sabotage, what are other things that they
I
do?
a big one is perfectionism. It's expecting everything to be perfect. And one of the
Mm,
statements that is related to that is I really feel like being not ready is a lie. Like when you tell yourself you're not ready, it's really you're deceiving yourself. So
okay.
I often say like not ready is a lie. And the reason why that happens is because there's no such thing as a perfect human being. We're gonna make
Right.
mistakes all the time, and I think when we're waiting to do something because we want it to be perfect, that I'm not ready to do this yet. I need more training. I need not ready to implement that because I need more experience. And I think that if you keep in that pattern, it's like a never-ending loop. You'll never be ready.
Right.
And so the important thing is to do it, to just do it, take action, and even if it doesn't go the direction you plan or it doesn't land the way you want it to, consider that a learning opportunity. So there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So you're failing
Mm,
forward in a sense. So I think that's important is to learn that not everything that doesn't work out is a cause to be upset about or to dwell on. It's a learning experience. It gives you good feedback. It's like now you know what to do differently. So that's very important.
mm. So that's really good. So, being not ready is a lie, that you
Hmm.
really are ready, but you're worried about it not being perfect.
Hmm.
And taking the action is going to give you some experience, going to give you some learning, going to give you feedback. So, failure, actually reframe it as feedback, right? Okay. I
Yes.
really love that. Okay. All right. And what do you think as in like with actors, like what has been the thing that really propels people forward when they're thinking about their performance or,
Well,
growing?
what really propels them forward is mindset and a growth mindset. And that's all about like looking as opportunities for growth in a sense. That's what's important is, just learning to grow, move forward. That's the one thing I would say. Also, just again, being also around a good support system too. You want to be around a good network, a network that elevate you, that will support you rather than tear you down.
Hmm.
And that's why I believe proximity is power, and I borrow that from like Tony Robbins and,
Yes.
Jim Rohn. And that proximity is power. And I think that is so important. So you want to have a good network that's going to support you, and you want to be around other parents that are going to help elevate you and support you, and be around other children, your children, be around other children that will inspire them and to lift them up. So, and there's always expression at one of my mentors that said, you want to be around people that will celebrate you and not tolerate you.
Nice. Celebrate you and not tolerate you. So
Yeah.
many gems. Thank you so much, Albert Monte, for just bringing all of this together for us and really thinking about that. If someone wants to be an actor or an actress as an adult, what are some things that they could do for their kids now to help them move in that direction?
Well, I would say first get them into some theater classes, whether it's in their school or in their community. Let them do some community theater, get the experience of being on stage, working with a script, working with practicing auditioning, and then just get them get them involved in some acting classes from different acting schools. And that's the biggest thing is like learning to network, and they can start meeting other actors and other theater professionals, and they can start just building from there. And then, once you're established, and you would need professional headshots, which are, you would get that from a photographer who does acting headshots, not portrait shots or not glamour shots, but
Mm-hmm.
actual headshots. And so you would need that. And with that training, you would then start, putting yourself online. There's different websites for actors like Actors Access and Casting Network, which I can certainly give, if anyone reaches out to me, I can certainly guide them. But that would
Okay.
be the next steps is to just put yourself out there. But the main thing to really know is that this is a career. This is not a overnight sensation. So we
Mm.
may hear some stories of people having their big break, but sometimes what the reality is, it took them 15 years to get their big break. So it's a lot of work. It's a great rewarding profession. So anybody who wants to
Mm-hmm.
do this, great. But do understand that this is a career. This is a, not a sprint, it's a journey. So it's going to take time and a long time. And for especially for younger actors, because I work, mainly with adults, but even those that are like graduating from college and, moving to New York, or they're going to Los Angeles or even Atlanta, the
Mm-hmm.
important thing to know is that you need almost a 10 or 15 or 20-year plan if this is what you want to do. And
I
I'm
see.
assuming it is, but it's not going to be an overnight success. It's not going to be an overnight sensation. It's going to take time, but it's very rewarding because, again, most of the actors I know that I work with don't do it for the fame, don't do it for the external rewards. More about the internal, like the intrinsic of being able to tell a story and be able to bring a character to life.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I haven't researched it very much, but just to hear that 10 to 20-year plan, it's a career, I think is really good advice. I think a lot of people do think, you get just discovered and you're on that hit show or movie and it's like you're doing it,
Yeah,
where the reality is doesn't really match that ideal. Okay.
yeah.
So that's good. That's good to know. Okay. Well, are there any, final takeaways that you want to give to our audience?
Well, I'm glad that, this podcast exists, and thank you for putting it together because I feel like it's so important for the children. I mean, I know it's cliche, but children are the future, and I think that we really need to be setting the foundation so that I don't have to be coaching that much when they're an adult because I already have the tools to be able to handle, challenges and adversity and be able to push through them. So we need to start at an early age because technically, if you really think about it, we should have all the resources we need to succeed by the time we're adults.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, there may be, again, if we won't have the best childhood or if we're dealing with our own trauma, sometimes those resources can be, or that wisdom can be blocked or impeded. So it's
Mhm.
important to kind of work through that and that's where a coach can come in to kind of help you tap into that, your own inner greatness.
Okay. All right. And so again, look out for Albert Bramante on his social media and his website again, one more time.
And that's BramanteArtists.com.
Okay. And we appreciate you so much for coming on to our show, dropping so many gems about how to bolster children through their confidence and really coach them into the next level of performance. Thank you so much
Hmm.
again. And for parents and our educators out there, please do something today that is going to give the children you serve a competitive advantage. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks again for supporting the Falling for Learning podcast. New episodes go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. You can watch us on youtube.com at Falling for Learning or listen on all major podcast platforms such as Apple, Google, Audible, Spotify, and much more. For more resources, visit fallinginlovewithlearning.com. We really appreciate you. Have a wonderful week.